straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell's defense argues over evidence in the death and disappearance of 2 children. Why the so-called doomsday couple is calling out their own prosecutor.
If we want to talk about inappropriate, that's inappropriate.
The NAACP sues the former president and Rudy Giuliani over the January 6th Capitol riot and election claims.
We have responded consistently to former President Donald Trump's efforts to disenfranchise African American voters.
Plus, the newest hit show, I Survived a Crime, is out, and we've got your first look. And the trial of a Wisconsin man accused of murdering his wife continues as prosecutors try to break down his claim that she up and vanished.
You can't hide your body once you're dead.
Law and Crime Daily, covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmeyer along with Terry Austin. Attorneys for the so-called doomsday cult couple were back in court claiming evidence is being withheld from them.
It was a heated virtual hearing, but the defense ended up scoring a partial victory. Lori Vallow and her husband Chad Daybell are charged with concealing and destroying evidence while Vallow's children were reported missing. Authorities discovered the bodies of JJ and Tylee Ryan buried in shallow graves on Daybell's property. Vallow's defense attorney submitted these photos from his meetings with her in jail and claims he's unable to communicate privately with her under the current COVID restrictions. The judge denied his request for Vallow to have a private cell phone and for cameras in their meeting room to be turned off.
Anytime I call my client, she has 2 options. One, she can stand at the desk with the deputy, as I cited, with about 2 feet handcuffed to a phone call with the deputy standing right next to her, or approximately 15 or so feet away. She's on a recorded phone line through Tailmate, and obviously we've had issues with that.
I think once you give one inmate a cell phone, that's not a slippery slope. You're jumping off a cliff, and everybody else is going to want a cell phone.
An electronic telecommunication device is considered a major contraband item under Idaho Code 182510, and allowing a particular inmate to have their own personal cell phone is something I'm not prepared to order in this case or any other case, quite frankly.
The judge did, however, grant the defense's motion to compel the prosecutor to tell them which witnesses he's already spoken to.
I'll notice, ironically, and right up front, that there's no denial by this prosecution that he's had personal conversations with these witnesses and that these statements have been given. He just doesn't want to produce them. One of the first witnesses, if this went to trial tomorrow, would be Mr. Wood.
And I would know it's not just this list of people he's produced. He says all persons I've ever conversed with. So if
converse with regarding this case.
It's my turn to speak now, Mr. Means.
If you talk to a lot of people, my obligation is on you, not on me.
By his own writing.
Hold on a second, both of you. We're making a recording here. We also have a court reporter who has to transcribe this. Mr. Means, I'm going to admonish you, do not talk over the top of someone else. Here to break down the latest episode of the Doomsday Cult saga is retired SWAT officer Lisa Lockwood and Terry Austin. Terry, give us a 30,000-foot view of what's going on, and I think I speak for all of us, but when are these motions going to end, and are we getting closer to an actual trial?
Well, you know, Brian, we are seeing a lot of pretrial motions, especially as far as Mark Means, Lori's attorney, is concerned. But here's the good news. There is a trial date set for August 30th on the misdemeanor charges against Lori in Madison County. And we have a July 12th trial date set for the felony charges in Fremont County. Now remember, those charges are against both Lori and Chad. So we are going to see a trial at some point, July right now, in, this case against both of them. So the real question that I have, though, is how will the Tammy Daybell autopsy results affect any charges against both Lori and Chad?
All right, Lisa, we've got a date, but when this trial eventually happens, I predict it's going to be heavy on police testimony. What would that testimony be focused on in this case?
It will be. From the disappearance in September all the way until the bodies were found the following June, it was 9 months of hide and seek. So the police were involved at all levels, trying to find her, trying to get her back from Hawaii after she got married, and trying to find the children. All the people that were involved as far as the interviews in locating the children. The compelling information the police have regarding her Lori Daybell telling her friend Melanie to lie and say the whereabouts of her children, and she refused to do it. So she perjured herself, and all of that information that the police have is going to come forward.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you both. And now for a check-in on some of today's top legal stories making headlines. A 1-year-old girl is safely back home after being abducted when her family's SUV was stolen from their driveway. An Amber Alert was issued for Tinley West Tuesday afternoon in Florida. The Hillsborough County Sheriff says the suspect abandoned the car at a church 3 miles away with the child still inside later that evening.
It's a senseless crime because somebody didn't wish to walk, so they decided to take advantage of someone who was already helping their mother who was struggling with a physical ailment, carrying some things into the house. Like I said, less than a minute. And at the same time, I'd be remiss. All it takes is less than a minute for someone to steal your car.
The Miami-Dade Police Department are asking for help trying to catch a suspect behind the murder of a transgender woman. Alexis Bratton was found dead inside her apartment on February 4th. According to the Human Rights Campaign, she's believed to be at least the 6th violent death of a transgender person in 2021. Detectives say Braxton suffered a violent and vicious death.
It's very important for us to close this case, as all cases are. This one in particular, this one, the family has been left with no closure. They're suffering tremendously because of the death and the manner in which our victim passed away and was murdered. During the course of the investigation, we were able to recover surveillance cameras from the surrounding area, and an individual who we believe may have information or knows something about the case has been captured on those videos. We're hoping that somebody out in the community may be able to identify this individual and provide information to us.
One of the ex-cops charged in the murder of George Floyd is calling for the prosecutors to be sanctioned over the apparent leak of a plea deal with Derek Chauvin. Attorneys for Tou Thao are accusing the state of sharing, quote, highly prejudicial information with the press. The New York Times published a report citing 3 anonymous law enforcement officials who said Chauvin was prepared to plead guilty to third-degree murder and serve 10 years in prison, but that the deal was killed by former Attorney General Bill Barr. Thao's attorneys are also requesting charges against him be dismissed. Chauvin is scheduled to go to trial beginning March 8th. Thao, along with 2 other officers, are slated to go to trial this summer. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, a sneak peek at the newest show featuring the twists and turns of crime on the A&E networks. But first, the Senate voted to acquit Trump of inciting an insurrection, but one group is launching a new claim in court. The lawsuit next. A congressman is suing former President Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and 2 far-right groups for the riot at the Capitol. Law and Crime's Angenette Levy is here with what the suit claims.
Yeah, Brian, that suit was actually filed in federal court. It claims the former president and Rudy Giuliani conspired with those 2 far-right groups and planned the attack on the Capitol last month.
This coup attempt was a coordinated, months-long attempt to destroy democracy.
NAACP lawyer Angenette Wallace says the January 6th riot was not just an attack on democracy.
Donald Trump, Rudolph Giuliani, the Proud Boys, and the Oath Keepers once again tried to disenfranchise African American voters by not having the election results certified.
This 32-page lawsuit filed by Congressman Benny Thompson claims the insurrection at the Capitol was a direct, intended, and foreseeable result of the defendants' unlawful conspiracy. The suit says the conspiracy violated the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, passed at the time because the group was using violence and intimidation against congressmen from the southern states after the Civil War.
I am privileged to partner with the NAACP to have my day in court so that the perpetrators of putting members of Congress at risk can be held accountable.
Let's have trial by combat.
That was Rudy Giuliani at the January 6th Stop the Steal rally. He's been quoted as saying the remark was a Game of Thrones reference. The lawsuit claims Giuliani mobilized and solicited the support of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Donald Trump tells Law and Crime President Trump has been acquitted in the Democrats' latest impeachment witch hunt, and the facts are irrefutable. President Trump did not plan, produce, or organize the January 6th rally on the Ellipse. President Trump did not incite or conspire to incite any violence at the Capitol on January 6th. But the lawsuit related to the riot will move forward.
And I look forward to having my day in court.
And attorneys for Thompson say this is not an attempt to relitigate that impeachment trial, that proceeding that happened and resulted with the acquittal in the Senate. I reached out to Rudy Giuliani for a comment on this lawsuit. So far, he has not responded. Brian.
Thank you. Back for legal analysis is retired SWAT officer Lisa Lockwood and Terry Austin. Terry, the NAACP's lawsuit, as you saw there from Angenette, is using the Ku Klux Klan Act to come after what it appears like everyone and their mother in connection to this insurrection. But how are they going to go after those who weren't physically at the Capitol?
You know, very easily. It really has two aspects. One is to overturn the election results. They're alleging that this is what this group was doing. But the second aspect of the claim is the fact that this was a conspiracy. So they will be able to reach the others who weren't physically there at the Capitol through the conspiracy charge. And I think they might be successful. It's a great act to move for.
Now, Lisa, you've obviously investigated and arrested people in street gangs like the Bloods or the Crips for criminal activities. Is the investigation into the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers going to be similar or different?
It's going to be similar in the sense that what they're looking for is an informant, somebody who is actually on the inside, who's going to give the intel to the police and the FBI to talk about how they were involved in it. So once they get somebody who has committed a crime, who has charges against them, just the same way they would with a gang member, in hopes of getting them to flip on other members to lessen the crime against them.
All right, so they're probably looking for a low-level member of that group to flip. Angenette, other members of Congress are expected to join in the suit, right?
Yeah, that's right, Brian. The NAACP says there are two other Democratic members of Congress who will join that lawsuit in the next few days or coming weeks. One is from Georgia, another is from New Jersey. Interesting lawsuit. We'll, of course, keep eyes on it as it develops. Thank you all. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, how prosecutors in Wisconsin are arguing a murder trial with no body. Plus, the harrowing ordeal of one family when their car was attacked by an angry mob. The new series, I Survived a Crime, is out on the A&E networks, and we've got an exclusive preview for you next. Welcome back. Too often, victims of cases are overlooked. Well, Gio Benitez is here to tell us about his new show on the A&E networks, taking viewers into the experience of the criminal justice system, I Survived a Crime.
Hey there, Brian. Yeah, I mean, this is a fascinating show because it's all about survivors. And I think that we're going to look at strength and resilience. And really, these are people who have gone through traumatic things. Now we're seeing how they survived it, how they got through it.
I know, Jill, you spoke to with the family who survived a terrifying moment when they were wrongfully accused of stealing a car. Let's take a look at some video footage, then you can tell me more about it.
Spokane, Washington. Lee Allen and his two children are out on an errand.
I was gonna run to the store and grab a pair of work pants. Max and Lexi said they want the ride. We made a quick stop out of it.
But as they leave the store, the Allens are confronted by this woman.
How did you get this car? How did you get the car? I don't want to fight. I just want to know how did you get this car?
My name is Lee Allen. This is my son, Max. This is my daughter,
Lexi.
And we survived a crime. My initial thought when I saw her was, I'm not gonna even pay her any attention because I know this is our car.
Get your ass out my way!
Court.
I am. It started to get more serious when my dad told me to start recording.
Get out of the car!
Press 911.
Max, call. More people started coming to the car. We couldn't go anywhere.
She started yelling, and it kind of seemed like it woke up the rest of the street people. It almost was like an invitation to come join in.
This man puts a menacing hand in his pocket.
What you doing? I thought maybe he had a gun. I don't know if this guy has a gun, but I also don't want to make a move and one of my kids get hurt. I'm a business owner. I got a big family. I got a lot to lose if I make a wrong decision in life. So I always try to stay on the right side of the law.
But a new bystander is on the scene.
I'm at the, actually at the intersection of Sprague and lock your door. Sprague, you have to. Yeah.
That.
What you doing? This is her car. This is not her car.
I slam the door on him and try to keep my kids safe and think, what's the next best move?
Yeah, so we're going to talk to them. You're going to hear their story. You're going to hear their story after. You're going to find out what happened when he finally gets to talking to police about it all. And you're going to be blown away by this particular story. But how amazing is Lexi? Like, you don't realize it, but Lexi is the one holding the phone, recording this whole incident. And at one point, she just stops and she's like, Daddy, Daddy, I'm scared, I'm scared. But she keeps recording. She records everybody. And that is how they were ultimately able to find some of these people, is because Lexi recorded this and then they posted it online. And it just went viral. And that's how they were able to identify a lot of these people.
Definitely something you don't want to miss. I Survived a Crime airs Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on A&E. When we come back, the no-body murder trial in Wisconsin. How did a husband allegedly kill his wife, then hide the body? Our analysis after the break. Prosecutors in Wisconsin are trying to prove that a husband murdered his wife and made her body disappear. James Prokopovich is on trial for first-degree intentional homicide. He's accused of killing his wife of 24 years, Victoria Prokopovich, in 2013. Investigators say it was part of his plan to be with his new girlfriend. The victim's daughter, Marsha Lorwitz, says her mother was diagnosed with mental health issues and even attempted suicide. Lorwitz says she helped search crews look for her mother while the defendant sat back and drank a beer.
I was surprised. We were all nervous. I don't know why he was drinking at 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, at one point we all had to go outside because they were going to search in the house. He was at that time leaning against the back of the truck saying, I know that they think that I did something to her.
Did you have the opportunity to hear anything else Jim may have said that was concerning to you?
Yeah, he was sitting in the kitchen at the table and he's like, I don't know what we're going to do with all of her. Look at all this stuff. This place is too big for two people. And then he said, I know she didn't want an obituary. We didn't know where my mom was. So that was confusing. The only thing I knew is in the pit of my stomach is I thought something's not right.
On cross, the defense said that the defendant has always maintained he believes the victim died by suicide.
The original. But when we started questioning further that you can't hide your body once you're dead, then we couldn't find her, what could have possibly happened, then it became she ran off with another man.
Your opinion of Jim as time went on has changed from this is a missing persons case to Jim is the responsible party, correct?
Yes.
You're still pretty angry about the fact that he moved on to a new woman, Kathy Friday, correct?
I'm not angry that he moved on. I'm not happy he moved on so quickly.
But how could the victim just seemingly disappear for 8 years? We asked forensic death investigator and law and crime expert Joseph Scott Morgan exactly that.
Yeah, literally there is no corpus delicti in this particular case. And I got to tell you, very enthusiastic about covering this trial with Law and Crime, because you know what we do have? We have sludge ponds. This is something in the narrative that the prosecution has put up, that he had access to a sludge pond in the context of a waste treatment area. You have what's referred to as aerobic and anaerobic activity. And with anaerobic activity, what happens is one of these sludge ponds forms kind of a lid or a crust on the top of it. And all the little nasties below, the bacteria, they are longing for nutrients in there. It's an environment that is absent of oxygen. So they begin to break down and eat anything that's in there. That's what solid waste treatment is all about, to get rid of the nasties.
I've never seen a man so happy to talk about sludge ponds, but here to talk more about sludge ponds and the alleged murder of a Wisconsin mother is Lisa Lockwood and Terry Austin. Lisa, when you hear what Joseph Scott Morgan just talked about, what are your, spidey senses or detective senses start locking in on when trying to figure out where exactly is Victoria Prokopovich?
I do agree with him because of 400 hours invested with the search team trying to find her body. If somebody was going to kill themselves, her body would have been found. So she's not, in my opinion, she's not throwing herself into a sludge pond. I don't think that's the first idea somebody thinks of. She had used pills before, and she also tried to use asphyxiation with her vehicle. So, short of her maybe throwing herself in a volcano, which wasn't in the area, but sludge ponds were, I think that Joseph Scott Morgan is right on.
Yeah. I went to UWGB for a year. There's definitely no volcanoes in that area. Terry, you've heard so far a lot of testimony here. What do you think? Is Victoria's body waiting to be found somewhere where she committed suicide? Or did James make good on his promise that we'll never find her?
Brian, I've listened to all the testimony, and witness after witnesses for the prosecution has said that they looked everywhere. They looked on feet. They looked on horses. They had canine dogs. I agree. We are not going to find this body. It's been 8 years. One thing I will say, both he and the victim said, you'll never find the body. And so I think whether it was murder or suicide, it's going to be very difficult to find whatever happened to Victoria.
Of course, and that is the major question. This is a homicide where there's literally no body for forensic anthropologists or someone to examine. Lisa Lockwood, Terry Austin, thank you for coming in and giving your legal analysis. And thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.